It is my opinion that if the US was ever faced with the situation that Lebanon is facing now, millions of people would die. Guys, T2, welcome back to Titan Preparedness. Today's video we are going to be discussing Lebanon, but before we get into that, I want to discuss Venezuela for just 1 second. You see, for years, Venezuela was the poster child for hyperinflation. Everyone heard the horrific stories coming out of Venezuela, how their people were eating rats just to survive. Yeah, they had free healthcare and they had free gas, but they had no food on the table. Now, something I want you to understand is it took Venezuela 6 years for their bolivar to become virtually worthless. However, it only took Lebanon 2 years. Lebanon is a worse off situation than Venezuela ever has been. And it took them 2 years, a third of the time, to get into that situation. So now there's a new poster child for hyperinflation. There's a new poster child for what not to do in economics. So for today's video, I do want to talk about Lebanon, what situations they are facing, both the major and the minor situations. I want to talk to you guys about how the people of Lebanon are making it through. And number 3, I want to put myself in that situation. What are some items that I would want, some things that I would need to make it through said situation? So let's kick it off with number 1. What are some of the things that Lebanon is facing right now? The biggest and most prevalent situation is a hyperinflation, devalued currency scenario. The Lebanese pound, or the lira, has lost 90% of its value in the last 2 years. Let me put that into a perspective that Americans can understand. An Arizona iced tea costs 99 cents per can. If I take a $1 bill into a store, I can get that 99 cent $1 drink. But if the currency is devalued by 90%, that means that $1 bill is only worth 10 cents. So now, instead of a $1 bill buying a $1 drink, it would be the equivalent of needing $10 to buy a $1 drink. Because each dollar is no longer worth 100 pennies, it's only worth 10 pennies. 10 times 10 is $1. So I'm going to need $10 to get a $1 drink. Now here in America, we are bitching because we have a 10% inflation rate, give or take a little bit. Just think about everything that you spend money on now. Food, water, clothing, shelter, power, water, cable provider, it doesn't matter. Everything has gone up about 10 to 15%. Over there, everything has gone up almost 90%. Now, the second crisis that Lebanon is facing is an energy crisis. Right now, I have power basically 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Unless there is some sort of work going on the equipment or some sort of storm blowing by, chances are I have power 99% of the time. In Lebanon, you are lucky to get state-ran power 2 hours out of a 24-hour period. And those 2 hours are normally at the beginning of the day, let's say about 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For 22 hours a day, you are in darkness. Now, during the daytime, it might not be that bad, right? You open up some curtains, you open up some blinds, you let the sunlight shine. But at night, when the streets go dark, when there is no power, no street lights, no lamps, things get dangerous. And you might be sitting here thinking, well, listen, man, I don't need power to survive. I've done an entire video on that. You might not personally need power to survive. But economies in first world style countries need electricity to survive. Think about the job that you currently hold. Could you provide that job, that good, that service if there was no power? Do you work at a manufacturer's plant? Do you run a convenience store? Do you work on a mechanic shop? Do you need power for that business to survive? Chances are 99% of us are going to say yes. I work at a power plant, which means if there's no power, there's no plant. There's no jobs being provided, because if we can't generate the electricity to make electricity, we don't have jobs. We don't have a reason to walk in the door. Because there's only power for 2 hours a day, millions of Lebanese people have lost their job. So again, while you might not need power to survive, the local economy that you live in absolutely does. The third thing that Lebanon is facing is a fuel crisis, a fuel shortage. You see, the Lebanese government used to subsidize the cost of fuel, which brought the price down. Now, because the government has defaulted on their loans and their money is no longer valuable, they can no longer subsidize the fuel, which drives the price back up. Now, because of the energy crisis, you can only power your pumps for 2 hours a day if you're lucky. Supply and demand. You only have a 2-hour window to pump gas. That drives the price back up. Right now here in America, the average cost for a single gallon of fuel is roughly about $4.30. In Lebanon, it's about $20, give or take a little bit. $20 for a single gallon. Think about how economies are based on the price of fuel. When our diesel here was $5, $6, $7 a gallon, it cost the farmer more to drive his tractor. They passed that cost onto the shipping and delivery. It costs that truck driver more to get that to the store. It costs you more because you're paying these other two people because it costs them more. So think about this whole situation wherever you live. Hyperinflation. Your money holds no value. Now you're going to have to spend more money just to get your basic needs. The energy crisis. You only have a 2-hour window, if you're lucky, to have lights and power to go be able to buy things. That means that your job, instead of working 40 hours a week, you're working 2 hours a day because that's when the lights come on. Everything is going to cost more because gas costs more, because fuel costs more. It costs more to get it to the store. It costs more to pull it up out of the ground. Which means the farmers who are harvesting the food, they're going to harvest less because they can't afford a 50-acre field, so now they're going to cut back. They're going to cut back to a 10-acre field, which puts less food in the stores. Now because there's less supply and more demand, that food price is going to go up. So all three of these issues, especially combined, cause everything to skyrocket in price. So number two, how are the people getting by? How are the people in Lebanon making it through? One of the biggest players in Lebanon is the black market. There is a black market for virtually everything in Lebanon. Food, fuel, medical supplies, and even energy. You see, the state can only provide you with 2 hours of electricity per day if you're lucky. But there's a black market for power. You see, people own large, massive generators, and they're willing to turn that generator on to make money. They are willing to hook your house, your apartment, your general store, your beauty salon up to their generator, but it's going to cost you. As I said, the price of gas is roughly $20 a gallon. You're going to be paying for it. You'll have the power, the energy you need to run your business, but it's going to cost you. There's a black market for food. I watched a video of Lebanese fishermen. They went out to the lake and they fished all day long. And instead of taking their bounty and going and selling it in Lebanon, they took it across country. They took it to another country to sell it because they got more for it. They would then turn around and buy food in that country with that country's money at a cheaper rate than what they could do in Lebanon. Now, if they wanted to, they could bring that food back to Lebanon and sell it at an excess price. There's even a black market for money. You see, the official exchange rate is 20,000 Lebanese lira per US dollar. But somehow, some way, there's people on the street that will buy your dollar for 40,000 Lebanese lira. Now, if the black market is not something you believe in or something you want to participate in, there's always outside resources that can help you. You see, this happens a lot in hyperinflated countries and even here in the US. So you have one family member and they run off. They go to some non-affected country and they do good, right? They go out, they get a job, they do whatever they want to do in that new country. And because that's your brother, your cousin, your niece, your nephew, whomever, they send you a little bit of money back while you're still living in that affected country. So now, if they send you $20, $50, $100 a month, you are now the richest person in your country, basically. You can actually afford to stay there. The average salary right now in Lebanon is roughly $8 to $10 equivalent. That's not a lot of money. And so if I had an uncle, a cousin, a brother who lived in Lebanon and they said, hey man, can you help me out? Can you send me 20 bucks a month, 30 bucks a month? I would say, yeah, sure, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, 20 bucks, that's just a few cups of coffee. That's just, me not going out to eat one day out of a week. Sure, 20 bucks is nothing. I send them 20 bucks. They are now making double their salary or even triple their salary just by a family member sending them a little bit of money. You see, this happens here in America. You see, we have people come up from South America or Mexico. They come to America and they work. And then they send some of that money back to their families. People do that all the time in hyperinflated states. People did that all the time in Venezuela. They would have a family member that lived outside of the country sending in whatever the currency was. So the third topic of today's video, what would I want, what would I need, what would I do if I was in that situation? The first one is, personally, I would get the hell out of the city. From the videos I watched, when the sun goes down, it becomes a war zone at night. There's no street lights, there's no power lights, there's nothing. So people mug you in the street, people kill you for the couple bucks you have in your pocket. But getting out of the city is only step one out of step two. You see, just because you get out of the city doesn't mean it's going to be a bright, safe place to be out in the country. You need someplace you can go that is not inside of the city. Whether that be a buddy's farm, a family's homestead, whatever, someplace that is not inside city limits. You can't raise crops inside the city. You can't raise animals and livestock inside the city. You need to get out, and you need to have a place to go, not just run off to the woods. That's going to get more people killed than anything. Have a place to go. The second thing I would want is food, water, and medicine. Food is an obvious one, right? The Venezuela situation lasted for, we're going on 6 to 8 years now. So this Lebanon situation being in its early days, yeah, chances are it's going to last for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years as well. It's hard to stockpile 10 years worth of food, but have food. Water is often overlooked. But think about it this way. There's no energy, there's no power. That means that the local water supply that you get from, the pumps aren't running. That means the water coming to your house isn't coming to your house no more. Have a water source that you can go to. That means having filters, purifiers, something that can make that water clean and safe to drink. You're going to need medicines, and even cheap medicines go a long way, right? Think about barter and trade. Right now I can go to the dollar store and get ibuprofen for, what, $2, $3 for a 500 count bottle. That $2, $3 now is going to become $20, $30 later on. So have food, water, and medicine, because you're going to need it. Now, number 3 is solar lights and solar power technologies. I talk a lot about it on this channel. Lights and power are the often overlooked prepping item. I don't need power. I don't need lights. Cool. Good on you. However, if you had a little solar light like this, you could charge it every single day. That saves you from buying overpriced batteries that you don't have the money for. That saves you from buying overpriced kerosene that you don't have the money for. That saves you from running around in the dark and getting a cut on your leg, or your kid falling down and getting a concussion, or you breaking an ankle because you tripped over something. Simple solar lights will save your life. Now, solar powered technologies, what do I mean by that? If gas is $20 a gallon, I don't care. I'm not using it. I'm not running a generator to keep my fridge and freezer cold. Things can go bad before I pay $20 a gallon. But with solar powered technologies, think the Goal Zero, the Blue Yetis, the Ecoflows, the Rock Pals, the Jackeries. Those power station systems can run a fridge, they can run a freezer. And all you have to do is set some solar panels out in the sun to recharge them. Now I would want something like that. That way the food that I do have stays cold longer than just for a single day. Now if you don't feel like buying one, you can easily build one. There's so many videos here on YouTube on how to build them. They put them in ammo cans, they put them in totes, they put them in whatever, and it's not that expensive compared to one that you can buy. Might not be as good, but it's still going to get you some type of power. Again, that power can now be used as a tradable item. Now, one thing that I do want to add that is specifically for hyperinflation events, that is precious metals, silver and gold specifically. Especially if you can cross borders to another country. If hyperinflation happened here in the United States and I could get to either Mexico or Canada, my silver and gold that I bought for $20 US is still going to hold value. Now, $20 in the US might not be worth anything, but $20 up in Canada is worth a whole lot. And I can either buy what I need up in Canada, or I could take the Canadian, whatever y'all use, loonies, toonies, and boonies, I don't know, and bring it back down, and then trade that for the current currency. Silver and gold hold value during hyperinflation. Right now, there are people in Venezuela that are chipping their gold pieces to get a haircut, to buy food, to go spend a night on the town. Do some research and put yourself in that situation, because I foresee a hyperinflation hitting long before some sort of Great Depression. That is a completely different video. I will talk about that later. Let me know down in the comment section the items or the gear or the skills that you would want to know if this were to happen here. Again, go do your own research on Lebanon. It is a fascinating topic, especially since it used to be the Paris of the Middle East. And now it basically looks like a war-torn country without the war. Alright guys, that's all I got for today's video.